Neal Battaglia, Saxophone.com. In this video, I want to talk about what tempo is. And I did actually a video maybe a couple weeks ago, and it was called Tempo Test Number 1. And basically, I gave 3 tempos, and you have the option of submitting a form and let me know what you think the tempos are. At the same time, one of the first comments I actually got was a guy, and he said, "Oh, I think it's 4/4, 3/4, and 2/4." And those are time signatures, they're not tempos. Basically, the tempo tells you how far apart the beats are in time. The time signature is more about how you think about how the rhythms connect in the song. And if you just hear beats, you're actually really not going to be able to figure out the time signature if there's no accent on any of the beats. If it's just a metronome going, it's actually basically impossible to know whether it's 4/4, 3/4, or 2/4. You could think about it in 2/4, you can think about it in 4/4. They're just beats like quarter notes probably. You could think about them as half notes. You could think about them as eighth notes. You can actually use the tempo to think about the song in different ways. You can kind of subdivide. You can think of something in cut time if that becomes more comfortable for you. But basically what tempo is, in terms of like the numbers of it, is this thing called BPM. And that stands for beats per minute. It's the number of beats in 1 minute of time. So if it's 60 beats per minute, that means 1 beat every second. So 60 BPM would sound like this. Got a metronome app on here. So okay, so that's 60. Let's go up to like 80. So this is 80 beats per minute. It's a little bit faster. Okay, and let's try something pretty fast. Let's go up to like 180. So 180 beats per minute, that's 3 times faster than 60 beats per minute. You could even think of those as being like triplets. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you could use 180 beats per minute as kind of a subdivision for triplets at the tempo of 60 beats per minute. And in music, we also use certain Italian words to describe certain things, like crescendo, coda, da capo, like to the head. So, and you might hear that too, like go to the head, like if you're playing jazz and someone's soloing and then you're gonna go back to the melody. It's like you can make a symbol like that. With tempo, there's certain words like largo, allegro, andante, presto. So these have certain meanings. Like andante is kind of like a slow walking speed. Largo is slower than that. Moderato is like moderately fast. It's a little bit faster than andante. If you want to have something that's kind of fast, it'd be called allegro. There's also kind of versions, suffixes rather, on these words that make them a little bit faster, a little bit slower. Like allegretto is something else that's kind of close to allegro. Presto is faster than allegro. So it's good to know those words too. So you might see those sometimes in the music, especially like written down. If you want to be more exact, maybe you want to use the numbers. So like 120 beats per minute or 210 beats per minute is going to be pretty fast. And also the tempo can kind of connect to the time signature. If something's in cut time and it's at a certain tempo, it's going to be maybe faster than something that's just at that tempo in 4/4. So how you connect to the tempo in your head and how you feel it is a factor as well. But the tempo itself is just kind of this metronome marking basically how much space there is between the beats. So yeah. Let me know what questions you have about tempo after you've seen this video, and maybe I can clarify any points, any details that you might not get yet. But yeah, basically it's beats per minute. It's the amount of time that passes between each beat. You can use it as like a subdivision. You can use the metronome in different ways. There might be accents in certain places in the measure depending on the style of music. But yeah, I think that's kind of a basic definition of what tempo is. And I mentioned the Italian words. You'll see those sometimes. I mentioned what you'll see on the metronome. Another comment that I saw was a guy was looking at a clock and he was looking at the second hand on the clock, and that's basically 60 BPM because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are going to be one tick per second, which means 60 per minute, which means 60 BPM. If you have something that's close to that, maybe you can kind of think about what your own like understanding what a second is in your head. If you get something farther away, say you have to kind of figure out what the tempo is, and it's more like 180 or 230. But 230 is actually kind of close to 240, which is a multiple of 60. So 60 times 4 is going to be 240. 240 is going to be kind of connected to 60 in a way. So maybe have this kind of 60 BPM as maybe sort of a foundation of something you can connect to and compare. But then you can also think about maybe the 60 BPM as being half notes. So then it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4. It'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're counting the quarter notes. But if you're counting the half notes, you feel it in a different way. And you can still use the 60 BPM, which might be more comfortable for you and more familiar to connect to a different tempo.